Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. And Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mitra Paramahansa Bhajika Charja Ashtotar Rishi Srimad Divine Grace Shri Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Bhajika Charja Ashtotar Rishi Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavina Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj srimadbhagavatam Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you, sir. Okay. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamidiriye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, unto the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Anastaprayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord who is glorified in transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 11th day of January 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order. And chapter 4, Dhruva Maharaj leaves home for the forest. Text number 82, the final verse in the chapter. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Mai Bashtalam Tapasodaratyayan Ma Vaishtabalam Tapasodaratyayan Navartayashe Patiyata Swadhama Yato hi vakprana niroda asid Autana padir mai sangatatma. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Mai Vaishtabalam Tapasodaratyayan Nivartayashe Patiyata Swadhama Yato hi vakprana niroda asid Autana padir mahisangatatma Ma Vaishtabalam Tapasodaratyayan Nivartayashe Patiyata Swadhama Yato hi vakprana nirodha asid Autana padir mahisangatatma. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Ma Bhaishtabalam Tapasodaratyayan Nivartayashe Patiyata Swadhama Hito hi vakprana niroda asi Autana padir mai sangatatma. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Ma Bhaishtabalam Tapasodaratyayan Nivartayashe Patiyata Swadhama Ito hi vakprana nirodha asid Autana padir mahisangatatma. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, Ma Vaishta, do not be afraid. Balam, the boy Dhruva, Tapasaha, by his severe austerity, Duratyayat, strongly determined, Nivartayashe, I shall ask him to stop this. Patiyata, you can return. Swadhama, to your own respective homes. Yataha, from whom? He, certainly. Vaha, your. Prananirodha, choking the life air. Asit, happened. Autanapadihi, on account of the son of King Uttanapada. Mahi, unto me. Sangata Atma, fully absorbed in thought of me. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, my dear demigods, do not be perturbed by this. It is due to the severe austerity and full determination of the son of King Uttanapada, who is now fully absorbed in thought of me. He has obstructed the universal breathing process. You can safely return to your respective homes. I shall stop this boy in his severe acts of austerities, and you will be saved from this situation. Purport. Here one word, Sangatatma, is misinterpreted by the Mayavadi philosophers who say that the self of Dhruva Maharaj became one with the Supreme Self, the personality of Godhead. The Mayavadi philosophers want to prove by this word that the Supersoul and the individual soul become united in this way, and that after such unification, the individual soul has no separate existence. But here it is clearly stated by the Supreme Lord that Dhruva Maharaj was so absorbed in meditation on the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that the Supreme Personality of God himself, the universal consciousness, was attracted to Dhruva. In order to please the demigods, the Lord wanted to go himself to Dhruva Maharaj to stop him from this severe austerity. The Mayavadi philosophers' conclusion that the Supersoul and the individual soul become united is not supported by this statement. Rather, the Supersoul, the personality of Godhead, wanted to stop Dhruva Maharaj from this severe austerity. By pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one pleases everyone. Just as by watering the root of a tree, one satisfies every branch, twig, and leaf of the tree. If one can attract the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one naturally attracts the whole universe because Krishna is the supreme cause of the universe. All the demigods were afraid of being totally vanquished by suffocation. But the personality of Godhead assured them that Dhruva Maharaj was a great devotee of the Lord and was not about to annihilate everyone in the universe. A devotee is never envious of other living entities. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya. Thus end the Bhantavana purports of the 4th canto, 8th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Dhruva Maharaj Leaves Home for the Forest. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Okay. So I thought we might review this chapter. This is quite a long chapter. It's about twice as long as the ordinary chapter. Yeah, it's quite long. One of the longest in the whole Bhagavatam in terms of verse length. So this chapter begins with discussion of the 4 sages, 4 Kumaras. And this says that they, as well as Narada, Ribhu, Hamsa, Aruni, Yati, all sons of Brahma, did not live at home, but became Urdhva-reta or Naishtika brahmacharis, unadulterated celibates. And then it describes how Lord Brahma gave birth to irreligion with a capital I. In other words, these qualities were personified. Falsity, whose wife's name was Falsity, that's Damba. From their combination were born 2 demons, falsity is not Damba, but a combination of 2 demons named Damba, or bluffing, and Maya, or cheating. These 2 demons were taken by a demon named Niriti, who had no children. Maitreya went on discussing, telling Vidura. From Damba and Maya were born greed and iniquity, or cunning. From their combination came Krodha and Himsa, anger and envy. And from their combination were born Kali and his sister Durukti, harsh speech. By the combination of Kali and harsh speech were born children named Death and Fear. From the combination of Mrityu and Biti came children named Yatana, excessive pain, and Nirya, hell. So all of these painful and troubling personified qualities are necessary for the material energy. The whole idea, you remember that when Brahma first created the material energy, he had these four aspects that he created: fear of death, the bodily concept of life, and two more that I forget. And these were necessary for the working of the material world, because the material world is covered by ignorance, and these forces help to keep the living entity in the conditioned state. So that's the beginning of the universe. The universe is just beginning, and now he's describing the first descendants of Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu was one of the Prajapatis. Remember, Brahma had all of this difficulty in getting the universe going. You know, he started. First of all, the Kumaras refused him. They didn't want to get married and have children. He was trying to get the universe populated. And so he became angry, and Shiva appeared between his two eyebrows. And then there were other sons who turned out to want to go after Brahma for sex, and he had to cast off that body, and it was like a lot of false starts. So finally he had the first series of progenitors, of whom Swayambhuva Manu was the one. He's the Manu for the first day, or first manvantara of Brahma's day, which is about 72 yuga cycles long. So that's what we're discussing here. And then the first descendants is Uttanapada and Priyavrata, these two sons. And now we're going to hear about Uttanapada. We wait till the fifth canto to hear about Priyavrata, actually. It's all the third, fourth canto is all about the descendants of Priyavrata. So they were very competent to rule the universe, to maintain, protect the citizens. So then it describes he had two queens. Now who remembers what the queens' names were? One queen. Yeah, Uttanapada's queens. Suruchi and Suniti. Okay, so which one was the favored queen? Suruchi. You can tell by the name. Suruchi means very beautiful, attractive. Suniti means very virtuous. Niti means morality. So then it's this whole story about the child Dhruva. How Dhruva was the son of Suniti, and what was his brother's name? I forget the brother's name now. But he was playing on Uttanapada's lap. You know, the child. You're in the inner chambers of the palace, and there's the king on the throne, or some couch or something. And Suruchi is there, but Suniti is kind of exiled. She's got her own little place far away. So as soon as Dhruva tried to get on the lap, Suruchi berated him. You do not deserve to sit on the throne or on the lap of the king. You're also his son, but because you didn't take your birth from my womb, you'll have to. You're doomed to failure. If you at all desire to rise to the throne, then you have to undergo severe austerities. First of all, you must satisfy the supreme personality of Godhead Narayan. And then when you're favored by him because of such worship, you'll have to take your birth next from my womb. So she was half right. She was actually giving him good instruction. You have to satisfy Narayan, which he thought was impossible for this little 5-year-old. And then the next part, you have to take my birth from my womb, which is not correct. She was wrong about that. So Dhruva was struck like a snake struck by a stick. He has this very strong Kshatriya spirit, although he's only 5 years old. That's the whole idea. And his father was silent, which he later regretted. Remember, so much when Narada went to visit him, he was very distressed because he hadn't taken his son on his lap. So Dhruva went to Suruchi, and his lips were quivering in anger. She lifted his son and consoled him. And then he told her what happened. And then Suniti was hurt to the quick, so to speak. She began to burn like in a forest fire. And she was grief-stricken. And so then showing her virtuous quality, said, don't wish for anything inauspicious for others. In other words, a little child, may very well, sometimes say, I'll kill you, you're ruining my life. I wish you're dead, to the parents when they're trying to stop him from playing or something. So, knowing the power of her son, she said, don't do that. She's training him right then. So then she said, Suruchi was correct. You do have to find out God. Although the brother is Uttama, that's his name, and he was later killed by the Yakshas, remember that? You must engage yourself in worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord. Then how great that will be. And you should take shelter of the Supreme Lord, is very kind, person seek liberation, and so forth. She keeps stressing that. Now Prabhupada adds in here, whenever he tells the story, this idea that he asked, well, where can I find him? He asked her. And what does she answer? Remember? Where can I find God? Yeah, I've heard that many sages go to the forest to find him. So that fills in kind of the plot here. And there off he went. After deliberate consideration, with intelligence and fixed determination, he left his father's house. So now Narada, he heard, he was somehow, with his powers, he overheard this news, and understanding that, he was struck with wonder. This little boy is going out to the forest. So then he meets him, and he tests him. He tests his determination. He says, "You're only a little boy whose attachments to sports and other frivolities. Why are you so insulted? If you feel your sense of honor has been insulted, you still have no cause for dissatisfaction. This is just a Maya. You're in Maya. This is a feature of the illusory energy." So he's testing him to see how determined he is. So you've decided to undertake mystic process. That means Ashtanga yoga. But in my opinion, they're not possible for any ordinary person. It's very difficult. After many, many births, many people try it, they can't achieve it. So therefore, my dear boy, you shouldn't endeavor. You'll fail. Better you go home. When you're grown up, by the mercy of the Lord, you'll get a chance. So he's testing him. So Dhruva said, I'm too disturbed. As far as I'm concerned, I'm covered by ignorance, and this kind of philosophy doesn't touch my heart. I'm very impudent for not accepting your instruction, but it's not my fault. I was born as a Kshatriya. Therefore, your valuable instruction doesn't stand in my heart. I want to occupy a position more exalted than any achieved within the three worlds by anyone, even by my fathers and grandfathers. In other words, it's kind of childish, There's Lord Brahma, who lives 311 trillion years, he pervades the whole universe. But Dhruva wants to get a better position, and he actually does get one, right? Because he goes to the pole star, which is not destroyed, where Brahmaloka is. So, if you will oblige, kindly advise me of an honest path by which I can achieve the goal. And so forth. He's praising him. So in other words, he refused. He says, I'm not going to give it up. So please instruct me. So he became compassionate, and to show him causeless mercy, he gave him the following expert advice. And then he describes the whole process. Narada praises Suniti, says she said to follow the path of devotion. She was right. Okay, everything is available through devotional service. Now then he describes. The first thing is go. Where was he instructed to go? Madhuban, bank of the Yamuna. Go to the bank of the Yamuna in the forest of Madhuban in Mathura, and just by going there, you draw nearer to the Lord. And in the waters of the Yamuna, take 3 baths a day, and then perform regular principles for Ashtanga yoga. Practice the different breathing processes, and free yourself from material contamination, all these baths and the breathing process. And then he describes the form of the Lord. He's going to meditate within his heart. On his face, he first described his face, raised nose, and 3 or 4 verses describing the beauty of the, in detail, Vishnu that he's going to meditate on. And then he becomes absorbed, and that's how he gets all his power. So they meditate on that form, very soon freed from all material contamination by that meditation. And then the mantra, then he chants the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is the 12-syllable mantra for worshipping Lord Krishna. So one should install a physical form. But what physical form can he install? It has to make it from the clay and the mud from the bank of the river. And while chanting the mantra, one should offer flowers and fruits and other varieties. Okay. You got detail here about his everything that he should do, what he should offer, how he should offer. Besides and chanting the mantra. Now he said chant the mantra 3 times a day. I thought he was chanting constantly, but 3 times a day. Meditate on the Leela of the Lord, follow in the footsteps of previous devotees. He's giving the bhakti process suitable for such a yuga. Okay, and then you will get anything you want. You can even get liberation. Dravida didn't want liberation; he wanted the kingdom. Then Dhruva offered him respectful obeisances, and he went to Madhavan. And then it describes, this is already text 63, he started executing exactly as he'd been instructed. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport, you remember that I forget that the word was used, that this is the really important part, that he followed the instructions exactly. So then meanwhile, while that's going on, Dhruva is practicing. Narada goes back to the king, to the palace, and he finds the king. Your face is withering up. You look like you've been thinking of something for a very long time. And so Uttanapada is so regretful. After all, he's a Vaishnava. He's a great Vaishnava king, and he's very regretful. He's soft heart. He's thinking Dhruva is helpless out there in the forest, you know. So Narada said, "Don't worry. Do not be aggrieved. He's well protected by the Lord. His reputation has already spread all over the world." Now the word used is Jagat, I think. Yeah. Yad Yasho Jagat, all over the universe, all over the world. So then Uttanapada, he was encouraged by that, but he basically quit the kingdom. He retired. He was so mortified by what he'd done. So meanwhile, it describes how Dhruva is going through these amazing austerities. For the first month, he ate only fruits and berries every 3rd day. He started out eating every 3rd day. And then meditating on the Lord, doing all of it. 2nd month, he ate only every 6 days. And this time, he's only eating dry grass and leaves, continuing his worship. 3rd month, he drank water only every 9th day. Thus, he remained completely entranced to worship the Lord. The 4th month, he became complete master of the pranayama and inhaled air only every 12th day. Pretty amazing. And he was fixed on thinking of the 5th month. Dhruva had controlled his breathing so perfectly he was able to stand on only one leg without motion and concentrate his mind fully on the Lord. And in this way he fixed his mind without diversion upon the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now then it's described, we're almost at the end of the chapter, he thus captured the personality of Godhead, who's the refuge of all the totalment of creation and the master of all living entities. He's standing on one leg. The pressure of that one leg, that toe on that leg, was pushing down half the earth, just as an elephant being carried on the boat rocks the boat. Prabhupada describes, you remember the analogy he used? Hold on. That if you're riding in an airplane, we've all ridden in airplanes, right? You're just sitting comfortably in your seat, but you have the same momentum as that airplane. The airplane may be going 500 miles an hour. Your body's going 500 miles an hour. So in one sense, you have all that energy. And if there's a crash, then you'll be one of the missiles that can strike something and destroy something. So in the same way, Dhruva, because of his absorption in Krishna, in the form of Vishnu, he'd acquired a lot of the energy of Vishnu. He was kind of channeling that energy. So that's why he was able to stop the breathing of the demigod. The whole universal breathing became choked up, and the great demigods felt suffocated, and thus took shelter of the Lord. And they pray to him. And the final verse we just read, don't be deterred. It's due to the severe austerity and full determination of the son of King Uttanapada, who is now fully absorbed in thought of me. So, Prabhupada again, there's several purports, if you recall, where he's fighting against the Mayavadis. This means that it's in the commentaries, for sure. The Mayavadis misinterpret the word Sangatatma. Sangata Atma means, where is that? Sangata Atma, fully absorbed in thought of me. That can mean, can merge with me. Haribol. Oh, could you pull those curtains? it's a little distracting. So, again, Prabhupada makes the point, no, that the individual self and the supreme, you have to open the door, really. Yeah, just open it wide and get some, yeah, that's it. That, you know, even in the Bhagavad Gita, we find, what is that? Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyastami tatomam tatador gyata vishate tadanantadam. The word vishate means enter. Only by bhakti can I be understood as I am. And when one fully understands me, one enters into me and merges with me. So this is a little fodder for the Mayavadis, but Acharyas explain, no, it means enter into the spiritual world. It means, you know, it doesn't mean enter into Krishna. So we have these are important commentations here. And right at the beginning of the Gita, Prabhupada reviewed that verse, Natve vaham jatu nasam natvam neme janaripa, that Krishna is saying to Arjuna, never did I not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Now it doesn't make sense that he would say that if there's a merging, rather that we've existed as individuals in the past, we exist as individuals now, and we'll exist as individuals in the future. So this is a clear statement in the Gita about that. So here it is clearly said that the Lord, by the Lord, that Dhruva was so absorbed in meditation on the thought of the Supreme Lord that the Lord himself, in the universal consciousness, was attracted to Dhruva. So this is an important concept we often forget, because generally we're thinking we're so small, we're infinitesimal, and we're trying to approach Krishna. But we should always remember, ye yatam apapadyate tam tadaiva bhajamyaham. To the degree that we can awaken our attraction in Krishna, we can experience Krishna's attraction for us. He becomes the servant of his servants. What does he say in the Chatra Shloki, in the main, he says, Tesham satati yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. Tadami buddhi yogatam yena mam viyantite. He's not just passive in the whole relationship. When we are constantly chanting his glories, Machittamagata prana, and engaging in his service, meeting together, glorifying him, and the more intense we do it, the more exclusively we do that instead of Maya, then we experience him giving us intelligence by which we can come to him. With the shining lamp of knowledge, that's the next verse, out of compassion for them. In other words, he has feeling. Tesham evan akampartam, ahama gyanajam tamaha nashiyam yatma bhavasto gyanadipena. I destroy the darkness of ignorance in their heart with the shining lamp of knowledge. So that's the meaning of the word bhakti. You look it up in the dictionary. It's a reciprocal relationship. One of the meanings of bhakti is to divide equally. But of course, bhakti in bhakti yoga includes the serving the Lord and feeling his reciprocal love. So that's mentioned here. That he was attracted to Dhruva. And to please the demigods, he wanted to go himself to Dhruva Maharaj. So you can see that maybe behind it, maybe in the commentaries, he arranged this whole thing, so the demigods would appeal to him, so he would go down. So in the next chapter, he appears before Dhruva, and you have this whole scene where Dhruva goes into total ecstasy. It describes there famously that it's almost like it felt like he was devouring the Lord with all of his senses. That's an amazing description of his prema. So then Prabhupada mentions how by pleasing Krishna, one pleases everyone. Just by watering the root of a tree, one satisfies every branch. Now one may question that, because here we are trying to, serve Krishna, and if we do it nicely and make a sacrifice and approach people, and sometimes they become angry, they become indifferent, they're not very pleased. Some are attracted, but it doesn't seem to be that you're pleasing everyone. But deep down inside you are. In other words, as spirit souls, they're being benefited. And one day they'll appreciate it. You just go out on Harinam, so many people are exposed, they're aware of us, they think Hare Krishna. Some of them may actually chant the name. They're aware of us. Some may get literature or whatever. So there's a certain influence that's in the mix now of all the other impressions and things that they're doing, but Krishna is there. And that's ultimately for the ultimate benefit of everybody. So that's the idea, is that real welfare work, just like the welfare work for the tree, you know, is to just water the root. That's it. If you try to, you know, water the leaves, or you try to, you know, do something else, that's not really what the tree needs. And so similarly, this world needs, always, the material world needs Krishna consciousness, although people don't recognize it. Just like the diseased person, he can be so delirious from fever that he sees the doctor as an enemy, right? The doctor walks into the room and the person thinks, oh, here's the person coming, you know, get out of here and throw something, you know. And the doctor doesn't say, well, okay, I'm not serving this patient. He realizes he's delirious, comes back a little later, maybe gives a sedative or something that can apply the medicine. So similarly, the great acharyas, they never give up trying to help the conditioned souls, even though it's oftentimes a thankless task, because they know that people are really mad. Nunam pramatta kurate vikarma. They're certified as mad if their only motive and their only endeavor is to have sense gratification, which most people are, especially in today's world. So that was Prabhupada's lesson. He taught us as much by his activities and his example as by his words. And that was that even though the odds seem to be totally stacked against you, you still have to make that effort to be Krishna conscious and give Krishna consciousness. That's the thing that's most pleasing to Krishna. And that's our duty. So, and ultimately, it comes out successful. It may seem like an impossible obstacle to cross, but the effort itself is a success, and Krishna often gives his help in miraculous ways. You can see by the life of Prabhupada. So, demigods felt suffocated, but the Lord assured them that Dhruva was a great devotee and was not about to annihilate everyone in the universe. So it was kind of a way in which Vishnu would have a reason, besides just wanting to see Dhruva, that he would go down. He was saving the demigods. So then Prabhupada ends the whole chapter in this a devotee is never envious of other living entities. Envious meaning two things. One is he's not jealous, and two is he or she is not does not bear any malice toward any living entities, which is, you can see how rare that is. So that's the chapter 8. And if we have any discussion, we have a few minutes. It's an important chapter. Go ahead. I'll do that.
Thank you, Dravida Prabhu.
Well,
Excuse me. I wish I could tie everything from the beginning, but I got here a little late. I'm sure it was very valuable, but one thing I appreciated that you said that I've often heard recently by Dravida Prabhu is that bhakti means to divide, or it can also mean to portion out or to share, which is what he really emphasizes, the idea of sharing.
mm-hmm.
And you were kind of mentioning that towards the end about, you know, sharing Krishna with everyone. And another thing that you mentioned that I thought was interesting, and I would like to know more if you don't mind sharing with us, is the idea that when we do give ourselves to Krishna, we are sharing Krishna, how he gives us him, basically. Or he gives us service, you could say. Or he does service to us. So I was wondering if you would mind sharing with us how Krishna has been, you know, serving you, or how maybe there has been moments in your devotional life that Krishna has been serving you in a way.
Well, I mean, the main way that he serves us is by making himself accessible in so many ways, and it's not just myself, but in other words, we're these exiled, or I would say wayward children of Krishna. We've decided to forget our life in the spiritual world and forget Krishna, and try to be little Krishnas, little, you know, proprietors and controllers of this material world. So it's just like a child, does something, observing us, trying to give us good instruction, and sometimes giving us punishment. Yes, the material sufferings are punishment, but if you come in contact with the acharya, someone who's really enlightened, even within this material world, and that's a key thing. I once confessed this, I hope this is not offensive, that when I was a child, I was so trained in this Marxist philosophy that I was actually railing and cursing God. I said, if you're up there, do something, I don't believe in you, like that, really like crazy. I mean, I was about Dhruva's age, maybe a little older. So, fortunately, he didn't take it completely seriously, or he just thought I was foolish. But from that platform, to go through, the eventual development of believing in Krishna and trying to practice seriously, devotional service, that was a tremendous gift. The gift really came most importantly in Srila Prabhupada coming to America. The fact that he was willing to practically, like jump off the cliff, like you see that how there's a painting where Prahlad was thrown off a cliff, and Krishna's there to catch him. That's the well, Prabhupada was always feeling that. But when he got on that boat, he felt he was empowered with the books, and he just went and said, somehow or other, I'm going to try to follow this. And with great difficulty, that ocean crossing was so difficult. But even in America, in New York, New York can just crush you. I used to live there, this even in the 70s, I think it's worse now. But Prabhupada was, just following Krishna's lead wherever he took him, until finally he came to the Lower East Side and found fertile ground, So that whole thing that preceded my being introduced to the movement was, I can see now, was Krishna's kindness, inspiring Srila Prabhupada and having the books and the prasadam and the devotees, and all of that is Krishna's proactive effort to make himself available to us, so that we have an opportunity to be attracted and actually begin bhakti yoga. So what could be a greater kindness than that? Now, of course, the correct response to that appreciation is to try to render some service and give back. That's the bhakti aspect. And when you do that, you appreciate Krishna more in your heart. So, and just more practical things. I remember going through all these, these 4.5 decades of being, and watching the world go on outside, the craziness and the different presidents. And I remember the early 80s with the AIDS epidemic starting, and all, the crack epidemic and all these different things. And realizing how protected you are from that. Is that, that's true, if I hadn't had Krishna consciousness, I would, who knows which of those things would have happened, jail, and who knows, disaster. But there's no question of it. So on the positive side, of this being in Krishna consciousness and having wonderful association and progressing in devotional service, and on the protection side of being protected from the Kali Yuga craziness and madness and all that stuff. So when you think about it, we've gotten a lot of reciprocation from Krishna. That's what I feel anyway. Damodar Kumar. Speak right into the mic and hold it close. For him, we need an extra boost on the mic. You're the personification of the quality of soft-spoken.
Thank you, Prabhu. Really, really appreciate the class. So, Prabhupada ends the chapter, as you mentioned, that Dhruva was not envious of all living entities. And that made me think about how, we understand that the innate nature of the self is praying. But we're contaminated for so many lifetimes, and where every living entity is envious, depending if you're spiritually advanced. But it's amazing how, like, in every moment, really, if we're not Krishna conscious, we're challenged with this tendency to be envious. If others have more than us, better qualities, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And how when we strive, when we endeavor to try to fight that tendency, to be the well-wisher, to glorify others, it's liberating. And sometimes I feel like, you know, in the ashram atmosphere or whatever, any community, to have that quality of sangha where it's free of envy, it's liberating.
It's a kind of a prerequisite. You know, if you're going to live in close quarters, you have to have at least a good part of that.
Mm-hmm.
It is liberating, because you can see, you know, in the materialist that and even it's a well-known psychological fact that if if you're harmed by someone and you hold that grudge, you know, sometimes for years together, that harms you more than the original thing. In other words, that's why they have the, you know, forgiveness. Forgiveness is such an important thing. Even in our own society, Mahatma specializes in these forgiveness seminars, because the devotees also can feel like that. You know, I was serving so nicely, and the temple president kicked me out. You know, back in the '80s, this happened. You know, but that's a symptom of not really practicing Krishna consciousness well. You have to be able to put it behind you and remain with the essence of Krishna consciousness. But it's a fact that, as I'd like to tell this story of how I was on my first trip to India. You know, I was just 2 years in the movement, but by Krishna's grace, I got to go to the opening of the Krishna Balaram temple. So, you know, the first trip to Mayapur, there was no question of grapefruit seed extract or grapefruit extract. You know, I got sick right away, so that was, you know, austerity. And eventually, we're on this long train ride from Mayapur to Hyderabad. And along the way, you know, I got criticizing someone, but there was a more experienced devotee by a couple of years sitting with me in the cabinet in the train car, and he said, "Okay, stop. You know, let me give you some advice. Try to always glorify. You know, glorify Krishna, glorify the devotees. That'll be a protection against envy, against blasphemy. You know, which is a result of the envy, which is very hazardous." And so I took that very seriously. And my experience is that, you know, and of course Radha Swami is a wonderful example of this. I remember a class in L.A., one of his disciples had passed away. He was an elderly man in Chowpatty. He had served in Pakistan for a long time, got reinitiated, the whole thing. And he gave the whole class on the glories of this devotee. And it was an amazing class, you know, describing how he took care of the brahmacharis. He was always singing songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and everything. And it was a great experience. So that protects us. Just as absorption in Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna, preaching, glorifying, gives you the taste that protects you against the allurement of trying to enjoy Maya. So it also protects you against the further mode of nature, which is the lower mode of, you know, ignorance, of being envious and expressing that envy, which can be hazardous to you, real hazardous to your devotional life. So that's why, you know. And I remember another thing that I remember, which supports that, is this, where at the beginning of the 10th canto, in the 9th chapter, I think it is, the Damodar Lila, Prabhupada, he did the translation. And it describes there at the beginning of the chapter how Mother Yashoda was churning the butter and singing the glories of her son. And then Prabhupada writes in the comment, it appears that Mother Yashoda didn't want to forget the pastimes of little Krishna at any time. And therefore, she was singing them. And it was a custom in times gone by that if you wanted to always remember something, you put it into poetry or had others do so. And then it's easy to sing it all day. And those who want to be Krishna conscious should do as Mother Yashoda did. And that always, you know, was an impetus to memorizing verses and finally also writing, you know, the English stuff. So that's really the standard. We're going to come now on the prayers. Vishnu's going to come down, and then Buddha is going to offer his prayers. And I mentioned this one prayer that I always memorized as soon as I read it. Bhakti muhu bhahatam trahime basango bhuyar ananda mahatam amalashayanam yenanya sobanam aruvisanam bhavadhim neshe bhavadgunakatam atapana matta. So what is he praying for? He's not praying for the kingdom. He's forgotten about that already. I don't want any kind of benediction, but I do want something. It says, let me always have the association of pure devotees, amalashayanam, whose hearts are completely pure, and into whose hearts the bhakti is flowing like a powerful river. Bhakti muhu pravahatam. Pravahatam is a river. My prasango, let me have a very intense attraction and association with him. Unlimited Lord, he's praying right to Vishnu there. Amalashyana means, Amala means pure, Ashya means desires or heart. Because by that association, I will easily be able to cross over this dangerous ocean of birth and death, which is filled with blazing fire-like dangers. Ulbanam. Ulbanam means fire, blazing. Why? Because I'm becoming mad to drink the nectar of talks about you. And in that association, I'll be able to drink it to my heart's content. And I'll never become content. You never become satiated. So that verse in purport always it struck me, and I think I've mentioned, although you weren't here, that in that purport is this famous line that those who are trying to be Krishna conscious but stay aloof from this Krishna conscious movement are living a great hallucination. We'll read those words in a few verses. Okay, we've gone over time. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.